Andrew Lawrence was cancelled because he tweeted about the England penalties, which were all, to me, they're obvious attempts at humour. And man, I hate how people when they get offended by comedians' jokes, they always take it at complete face value. There's no room for any nuance or context or irony or maybe just the concept that possibly the comedian was joking. Is that possible? Could the comedian have been joking? And Andrew Lawrence was cancelled. If you scroll down on this, I think we can see the offending tweets. There we go. So he said, all I'm saying is the white guy scored, which it's provocative, it's confrontational, which is what Andrew Lawrence does, and
it's also the point.
He normally says things like this in the guise of a character, which obviously gives you more leeway. But I mean, at the time, because the England getting to the final of the Euros, the national unity and the sort of joy, even as a Scot. I got caught up in it. I was like, I was really proud of them, and obviously, the team's great. I think Marcus Rashford's great. I mean, he took a terrible penalty. I'm not gonna lie. Like the women's football team could have scored that, and he spooned it. But as soon as the game finished, all the wokeists came out on Twitter to call everybody racist, all the England fans racist. It's just ridiculous having it shoved in our face. It's like, no, like the England football team, it's the ultimate celebration of diversity and bringing together. Also, football's always been at the forefront of genuine social and racial integration. Like in the 70s, Millwall had more black players, and bear in mind, Millwall's held up as like the most racist football team. Millwall had more black players than The Guardian had black journalists. So the Guardian is more racist than Millwall, and Millwall's genuinely more progressive and more racially, integrated than the Guardian.
Well, it's colorblindness versus anti-racism for you, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's Millwall in football. A huge number of black athletes because
I wanted to mention though, you made a great point, which is that Andrew usually speaks in the words of a character.
Yeah.
Like he's playing a character who's usually very woke, and that's it. And Carl made a video about this, making the obvious point that the build-up to the joke here is the England team will win because they are diverse.
Yeah.
And therefore, the logical conclusion is if they lose, therefore the diversity is the problem.
Yeah.
And Andrew just ran that experiment.
Yeah,
He was like,
yeah.
I'll take your logic, and then we'll run it through the machine, and this is the outcome.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even saying I agree with it because, of course, I don't, you don't, all the rest of it. But, that's their logic.
Yeah.
And putting that in their face was his crime.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the selections to take penalties were, they seemed politicized. They seemed, driven by this need to show diversity and prove that, diversity is good. When really, they should just do it based on merit. But yeah, so Andrew Lawrence, he was like pretty much completely cancelled. His tour was cancelled. All his tour dates were gone. I know he lost a lot of club gigs as well. All the promoters were on the comedy forums saying, "Well, I've got this. Who wants to go to wherever it is for £400 because I've cancelled Andrew Lawrence." I hated how the comedy industry really rounded on him, and this guy, he's got a family, he's got kids and stuff, and to the glee with which they turned on him. And went after him like wolves. I mean, I stuck up for him. I think a couple of other people stuck up for him. Just to say, like, come on, like we can't. Like every comedian has said something that's potentially offensive, so we can't just go around cancelling each other. And all right, fair enough. Let the woke dicks on Twitter cancel people, but we shouldn't be doing it to each other. You know what I mean? I just thought it was disgusting. And more recently, Roy Chubby Brown. So if we move on to the next one. So Roy Chubby Brown was cancelled from performing in Sheffield. They said the theatre, the venue said it doesn't reflect the values of Sheffield. And I don't know. I think down to earth northern comedy where everybody gets slagged off. That
So
is,
I'm not familiar with him. Is he told a spicy joke again?
He's a pretty offensive. He's in the sort of same vein as maybe like Bernard Manning. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, some of his stuff. There's I remember watching a DVD of his in the 90s, and there was a bit where he went a bit racist. And the weird thing was, it sort of ruined the gig. It all got like serious. Yeah. But he was talking about immigration. But then on the other hand, like, I mean, we're not allowed to talk about immigration, and we're not allowed to talk about the huge social upheaval that's happened in northern post-industrial towns. So maybe we should be allowed to talk about that. Maybe if we could talk about it, there'd be less racism and less of a sort of knee-jerk reaction through people voting for Brexit. I think maybe the liberal elites, the people who hold the cultural power should understand that. If you can't talk about it socially and culturally, you're going to force it, because voting always happens in private. So if the only place people can express their dissent or express their true feelings is in the privacy of the polling booth, you're going to have right-wing populist governments forever.
Based. Anyway.
But anyway, they're obviously Andrew Lawrence, Roy Chubby Brown. They're anti-woke or non-woke comedians. But now, this cancel culture machine that the left set up to destroy people like Andrew Lawrence and Roy Chubby Brown, it's been turned back on their own. So if we move on to the next slide, we've got Rufus Hound, who's pretty woke. He's been on Twitter. I've seen his tweets, slagging off Lawrence Fox and all the rest of it, because he's obviously Rufus Hound is because he's a woke lefty. He's elevated to a higher pedestal. So he's been accused of yellow face racism because he's appearing in a pantomime playing Aladdin. And
wait, hang on. So did he put like yellow makeup on, or?
Well, let's have a look. Oh wait, that's the image. That's the image. So he's
so
got
he just wore a hat.
He's got some sort of racist hat on, and it's definitely it's racist. I can't even look at that. I'm disgusted.
Sorry, he's wearing eyeliner for people listening. He's wearing eyeliner, some kind of garbs, and then a hat.
But look what he's done with the eyeliner. He's made his eyes squinty, like a child in a playground in the 80s.
Has he though?
Yes, he has. He's done it. He's racist. He's basically. I haven't seen anything that bad since I went to a party with Justin Trudeau.
Okay.
So he's dressed up. He's culturally appropriated. Whatever. Where's Aladdin from? Is he Chinese or something? I've no idea.
Middle Eastern, isn't he?
Middle Eastern, right? Yeah. So he's not Aladdin. He's villain Abanzar.
Okay.
And that's it's terrible. It's genuinely deeply offensive and racist by the rules that these leftists like Rufus Hound have built. So now and the great thing was, if we scroll down, so he tweeted, and one of my friends sent me this tweet because we're laughing about it. So this top tweet, he's like, "Hello, some days you just feel sad, like, fucking in a tweet, apostrophe no. Like, even though there are plenty of good things, the bad things just feel a bit too heavy. Problem is, there's a lot of heavy shit, guys. The slide into fascism, the planet burning, love not winning in the end. Fuck, I feel sad." And, my mate sent that to me.
Is there like a weed smoking emoji he could put in there? Make it make sense.
My mate sent it to me and said, he's just, lost out on a bit of TV work. But, he's blaming it on the slide into fashion. Turns out he was sad because he was being accused of being racist by people exactly like him. So it's wonderful. And then he's making all these excuses for why he was wearing yellow face and why he'd made his eyes pointy.
So
like a deeply
is he
racist...
saying he's part of the slide into fascism?
Well, I'm saying he's part of the slide into fascism because I'm now woke. I'm woke and I'm a non-binary genderqueer, and Rufus Hound is racist. But yeah, so he makes all these excuses. If you scroll down, there's various excuses for
no
the
point
character.
did they think it was yellowface.
Yeah, the character Abanzar isn't Asian in origin. Well, he's not from Woking, is he? You know what I mean? He's obviously from somewhere, Rufus.
He's Russian, actually.
Somewhere slightly, with a slightly different skin tone to us. And yeah, what's this? Chinoisery? He's even making up words. And he's talking about his eye shape and all the rest of it. So he realizes he's been caught out. But the thing is, man, if that had been a right-wing comedian, if that had been me, if I'd put on like yellow face makeup and made my eyes squinty and put on a turban, like, Rufus Hound would have come out trying to destroy me. So I think it's terrible. Genuinely, I think it's terrible when people try and destroy comedians for things like this. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's pantomime. If anything, it's part of British culture that we should be. If pantomime was like, was something that was done by Amazonian tribes people, everybody would be protecting it, and there'd be Arts Council funds to keep this tradition alive and all the rest of it. And instead, because it's white working class people that go to it, it's this is racist. This is racist. You got to ban it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but for people who might not know, I don't know if foreigners don't know or not, but pantomime is a very British thing. It's kind of like a stage performance of a play, except like it's got massive amounts of audience engagement. I think is the thing that separates it.
Yeah, and there's like various phrases that are done in every pantomime, like "he's behind you," and oh no, he didn't," and all that.
Oh yes, he did.
Yeah. And actually talking about it, you realise how completely ridiculous it is. It's one of those British things like Morris dancing or deep frying things.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, it's like the kind of atmosphere where grown soldiers could dress up in women's clothing to play characters. And
it's always got men. It's always got men in drag. Playing widow twanky or whatever, and ridiculous storylines about giant beanstalks and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's fun, and you go when you're a kid. It's a Christmas thing. They also do adult pantos and stuff. But anyway, so Rufus Hound has been caught out for racism. But there's another one, and even more left wing. So there's a picture of Justin Trudeau just to show. If you scroll down, you can just see his face there. That's.
He even did his hands. I only just noticed that.
Whoa, yeah. That's some commitment to being a massive racist.
Did he do his whole body?
But his dick stayed the same size. So if we go on to the next one, there's another comedian, Janie Godley, who first sort of rose to prominence. She's a great act, by the way. Like I've gigged with her in the clubs, and she kills. Absolutely brilliant act. And really fun and really edgy. Politically, she's very left, and she's very close to the SNP.
So internationally, she's quite famous for this image.
This is the thing that sort of thrust her to prominence.
Trump was visiting Scotland. She turned up with a sign saying Trump is a C word.
Yeah, and since then, over lockdown, she got she blew up making videos and stuff like that. So she's in Scotland anyway. She's quite famous. So if we move on to the next one, so she was people dug out. Well, I should probably put this in context. So basically, the SNP, Scotland's sort of split down sectarian lines. So on one side, you've got the Unionists who want to stay in the UK, Rangers fans, Protestants. They tend to be on this side, and on the other side, you've got the woke left. You've got people who want to leave the UK. They want Scotland to be independent. You've got the SNP, and to a certain extent, Catholics. They're not all completely in one group, but there is this divide in Scotland, and it used to be serious. People used to get killed. Well, it still is serious, but people used to get stabbed over it and stuff. So what the SNP did, because they hate the Unionists, they hate Rangers fans and all the rest of it, the SNP and the Yes Stapo, they dug out old tweets, with the Daily Record, which is a paper in Scotland. They had this campaign to get Rangers podcasters and Rangers fans arrested and charged for sectarian comments, and they did. They got 7 Rangers fans and podcasters charged for these comments. But then people on this side, people on the Rangers side, were like, "Well, why don't we do that?" To the left, so they dug out the Daily Record, which had run this, outed all these people. They dug through the Daily Record journalists and found just ridiculously racist, offensive, sectarian comments. And
which is illegal in Scotland.
Which is illegal, and although nothing seems to be happening, it only seems to happen. You only seem to get charged with it if you're on this side, if you're on the Unionist side. If you're on the the side of the SNP, you don't get charged
because they're in government.
Hate crime laws are very applied in a very partisan way. But yeah, and then so they dug out all the Daily Record journalists for being racist. But then they also turned to people like Janie Godley, who's very close to the SNP, and has spoken out on the SNP's behalf, and has also been involved in criticising and cancelling people on the other side. She gets stuck in. So they dug through her old tweets and also her old podcast, and they found some pretty genuinely racist stuff. Which the thing is with Janie, she's quite an edgy comedian, and she puts out a lot of content. And I don't know, it sounds ridiculous to say, like, if you put out enough stuff, you're eventually going to say something racist. I don't know. I guess that does sound ridiculous, but she puts out a huge amount of content, and they've taken some of it, and we've got a clip of it. We've got a clip of it here, but they've taken some of it out of context, But then that's what happens.
Context doesn't matter with Count Dankula.
Exactly. And Count Dankula's joke was completely defensible along the lines of, he wasn't glorifying
The
Nazism.
Nazi is the pug.
Yeah, and he was saying the joke, Count Dankula's joke, the Nazi pug salute. If people don't know about this, there's this Scottish comedian called Count Dankula who taught his girlfriend's pug to do a Nazi salute whenever he said, pro-Nazi stuff, and it's hilarious. I mean, all right, the joke's not to everybody's taste. I laughed my ass off when I saw it. I couldn't stop laughing, and the joke only works because the pug. It's the sort of disparity, the dissonance between the absolute cuteness of the pug and the absolute evil of Nazism. So he's not promoting Nazism. He's not saying Nazism.
But it's completely explainable. It's completely understandable,
and it's funny. And it's funny, which should always be a defense for comedy. You know what I mean? If somebody laughs, that's a defense. Somebody likes it. But so Janie got. I mean, well, we've got some stuff here.
So there's some examples of her. Let's play the clip.
Yeah.
They went, oh no, that's a party wedding. That's an Indian party wedding.
Oh, because there's two.
Aye, I went, no, this is the
Was
same
that a
guy.
multicultural wedding then?
Aye, but no, it was the one wedding, but he get Indian and Pakistani mixed up because he's a Jippo.
They don't like being called that, don't
Well, people don't like being called parties.
I thought 50 Cent was Nelly because I sang that song. I'm going to show you what a nigga from the Lou is blessed with.
Oh, please don't say that word on the podcast.
But no, you're allowed to say
Please
that
don't say
word
that
if you're singing it in a song.
Yeah.
But these are Irish tinker Jippos who are
Don't
different.
call them Jippos, Mum. They're gypsies.
Sorry.
Jippo is a really offensive word.
Trying
Yeah, Guido.
So for people who are listening, the first one there was the Pakistani. Take the first part of that word. That's a slur in Britain because of reasons. And then also the N-word and Jippos, which is
Yeah.
more
And
common.
I think if you're white, you've got to be so careful using those words, or just maybe don't use them. They're loaded with decades of historical oppression and abuse and all the rest of it. So
but also
I think,
you're like a left-wing comedian who's tied to the SNP.
Yeah,
who's
she's
locking people up like Count Dankula.
yeah, absolutely. So she's sort of been cancelled. She's been dropped from her two ad campaigns for the Scottish government. Which, from a sort of comedic point of view, I understand if you're going to work with the government, you've got to be sort of squeaky clean. But then people have come after her. She's doing pantomime and she's doing a tour. Her tour venues are standing by her. Although, obviously, I mean, if she was a right-wing comedian, they'd have completely thrown her under the bus. But, so her tour, I think her tour is going to be fine. Might even, boost her profile and help her sell some tickets. I was talking to her about it the other day, so I'll check in and see. But I thought it was bad. Like a Tory MP was trying to get her cancelled from her pantomime, and for somebody on the right, for somebody from the Tory party that are supposed to be pro-liberalism and free speech,
but for them, I mean, they'll have the defense of being like, look, we didn't start the fire.
Yeah.
And if this is the game we're going to play,
yeah,
we're all going to go down to hell together.
Yeah, but I'm from the point of view of like,
I prefer
people have tried to get me cancelled, and I'd rather not cancel anybody else. You know what I mean? Purely.
I agree.
To
be honest, I even have it so that she could work with the government when the SPN's in charge, and when the Tories are in charge, they should be able to hire Count Dankula, for Christ's sake, to do an ad campaign. I don't really care. But if we're going to play this,
Count Dankula.
Yeah. But if we're going to play this game, well, it's that's why I'm like, it shouldn't happen, but I'm not going to be unhappy about
this. And
this.
the response from the SNP, I don't know if it's in the next section, but like, Nicola Sturgeon just said that Janie had given a dignified response and said, "Oh, these things happen," and other lefties like Don French are dropping by to support her. Where were they when Andrew Lawrence was getting cancelled? Why is it Andrew Lawrence says something that's nowhere near as offensive and gets cancelled, and Janie, not that I think Janie should get cancelled.
Count Dankula wasn't cancelled. He was taken to court and charged with a crime.
Yeah, and fined. Yeah,
and zipped mouths.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. The state got involved, whereas the state is bending over backwards to make excuses in this case, which purely shows how partisan all this hate crime stuff is. And yeah, Sturgeon said, these things happen. She's a comedian. She said so herself that she thought that gave her license to say things that she now accepts were completely out of order and unacceptable. I know that when people make mistakes, the climate we live in these days is pretty unforgiving. Yes, it is unforgiving, Nicola Sturgeon. So why are you creating a hate crime bill to make it even more unforgiving and like actually criminalise jokes and conversations around the dinner table and stuff like that? It's ridiculous. So yeah. And yeah, so I mean, there's other stuff. So our daughter that she does the podcast with has been called out for stuff she did. I mean, this is way back in 2006, but we can see some. If you scroll down, you can see some of the. I mean, you don't scroll right to the bottom, or you like. Here we go. So yeah, like there's the. If you scroll down a little bit more, just 2 paragraphs. Then yeah, here we go. Like the offensive, downright offensive lines, like he's sweating like a blind. Can I say
P word? I don't think we can in the UK anymore.
Yeah, in a sausage factory, or Nigeria. Do you think that's why they call them
The N word.
the N word? I mean, this is the other thing people always say. I've grown and I've moved on since then, and you know that's fair enough. Ashley would have been very young in 2006, but Janie's stuff was like 2017. It's like. You're 56. You know? Yeah, and this is me. So I got accused of being racist purely because I went on Radio 4 calling for more working class representation in comedy.
Because you went on Radio 4.
Yeah. So I made the point that BBC Comedy doesn't represent all the voices in the UK, and when they attempt diversity, they just get somebody with slightly different skin tone, but the same like Oxbridge, Russell Group educated. Voice, the same opinions, so you're not getting genuine diversity, just the tokenistic diversity of slightly different skin color or different sexuality or whatever. So this meant that apparently I'm racist because I was saying that all non-white people should sound the same, which absolutely wasn't the point I was making. I think it's obvious that wasn't the point. But I was accused by the Live Comedy Association, because we've got a Live Comedy Association now regulating live comedy in the UK, because nothing makes stuff funnier than a statutory group regulating things. You know what I mean? It's just going to make comedy wonderful. But we've got this thing, and they've got a diversity and inclusion officer, obviously. And so yeah, she said that I was racist because of what I said on Radio 4, and I complained, and they ended up sending me a certificate of non-racism. So I'm now the only comedian in the UK who's guaranteed to not be racist.
Officially non-racist.
I'm officially non-racist.
I love the end of that letter there.
This letter is intended as a formal document which can be sent to any industry professionals as evidence that the LCA as an organisation does not believe that you are racist. Amazing. I'm not racist. I mean, that's about as much use as a babysitter having a letter saying they're not a paedophile. It's like, why would you... I'm going to show that to a promoter and they're going to be, this is reassuring. This is very reassuring. You must not be racist.
I think this is essentially an N-word pass. Yeah. Like, you can make as many jokes as you want, as far as you want, and then you can put out the letter and be like, oi. Oh, boy. Oh, God. Anyway.
So yeah, but I'm worried about where it's going to go next, because some of my favourite comedians, in fact all of my favourite comedians say, ridiculously outrageous things that, are going to offend a lot of people. Like Jerry Sadowitz, he's still touring, and his stuff, oh my God, I mean, there's no context in which it can be okay. It's deeply racist, misogynistic, homophobic, and all the rest of it. I mean, I saw him at the Soho Theatre, and is it
funny?
Oh, it's hilarious. It is the funniest thing. My mum used to take me and my brother to see him. He's a Glaswegian comedian. He's so funny, just so deeply funny. But just outrageous. It's a shame there's nothing online. He purges all his stuff online, which probably he purges it because he's a perfectionist. I've been to DVD recordings and stuff that he's then just canned because he doesn't think it's good enough. And I wish he'd put stuff out because it's hilarious. There's a DVD you can get called the Total Abuse Show, and some of his jokes are just like the most. Like he's got one of his jokes is how do you crucify a spastic on a swastika, and it's you know what I mean. I mean it's so efficiently offensive. It's like just a few words. He's managed to like cram so much offence in, and his act was kind of certainly must have been quite inspirational to Frankie Boyle, who does similarly. Or used to do similarly, crass and outrageous and deeply funny jokes, like his joke about Harvey. Frankie Boyle, for some reason, has managed to evade all the cancellation. I think it's because Frankie Boyle went super woke and started hiring all these woke
he's
comedians.
paying his money to the church.
Yeah.
So they don't
It's
investigate.
protection money to the racket, to the mob. Like, it literally is a racket at this point. And this is Frank Sinatra, so he's one of my favourite acts. He's hilarious. And he closes out our Hate and Live shows. I run a show called Hate and Live, and he closes it out. But basically, he's a lounge singer who dresses up as Hitler and does interpretations of Frank Sinatra songs. So we've got like a clip here.
So the Taliban. Strangers on my flight, they make me nervous. They're terrorists, alright. They're wearing turbans. This won't turn out right, 'cause one just touched his shoe. Dee-doo-be-doo-be-doo. Something in their smile, it made me anxious. Something in their beards, it made me nervous. Something in their pants, I wish I never flew.
So I'm worried that he could get cancelled. Like, these are.
I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't. So.
And also all these comedians. Jerry Sadowitz started in the 80s. Frank Sinatra's been going a while. He's a friend of mine. I absolutely love him as a person and also as a comedian. And I'm worried that they're going to get cancelled. And it's this culture.
What's to stop them?
This culture that we've got means there won't be any new Frank Sinatras coming through, because if anybody tried that, it's all right if you're already established, but if you tried it now, you get so many complaints.
One man and his pug did, and
yeah.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to the full premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got some really good stuff. Like podcasts, we can't really put up on YouTube or other public domains because we're dealing with sensitive subjects and we don't want to be misconstrued in what we're saying here. The most recent one I've done is the Progressing to Destruction podcast, which is talking about the actual impact of immigration on the United Kingdom. There are lots of progressive arguments on how the ethnic diversity of the restaurants that you're enjoying has nothing but positive results for the United Kingdom, and that's not true, and we can actually see some of the consequences of this. And so I go through that in detail. We also have our regular series, such as the Epochs of the Lotus Eaters, where we talk about history, myself and Bo Dade. With this particular one I really enjoyed because it's talking about the Battle of Tunis and why leadership matters, because this was in the First Punic War, where Carthage is losing horrifically to the Romans, and they can't understand why, because there's nothing wrong with their navy, there's nothing wrong with their army. Turns out it was all about the leadership, and all it took was one Spartan general to come and turn the entire thing around, and that was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed doing that. And we also have the Contemplation series that Josh and Hugo do. This is really interesting, where they just take an interesting subject and go through it in meticulous detail. This particular episode is the science of conformity, and you may well have seen lots of people still wearing their masks in the UK and elsewhere, even though you don't have to. And this goes into why psychology shows that people happen to do this kind of thing. We also have lots of premium articles, again, dealing with subjects that often are not something that you can adequately have a conversation with a bad faith actor. This particular one is free speech and the trope of gay parenthood, which on the immediately you think, okay, this is going to be politically incorrect in some way, but it's not really. It's actually a very delicate article expressing concern that this is yet another subject where the results aren't in, we don't know what the consequences of this are, and yet we're still not allowed to question the premise. And it's because of the current political environment that we're in. Also, there are lots of other just very interesting and informative articles, such as one by Hugo about how overpopulation isn't real. It's not a real thing. And yet we're constantly told that it is. But the Earth is enormous. And it turns out it can hold billions more humans than we actually have. So, interesting that. And we also have loads of very interesting interviews with people who you may not have heard of, such as Hatton Tash, the lady who was attacked, a Christian lady who was attacked at Speaker's Corner for questioning Islamism. She was stabbed in the head. In very interesting interview with her and various others. And of course, we have a live event coming up on the 24th and 25th of September. Now, the 25th of September one is sold out. So you'll have to, if you would like to come and see us, come to the Friday 24th September one. This is in South London. as you sign up, you will be emailed the exact location, because there are bad faith political actors out there who might try and interfere with the event itself. So there we go.
If you want to get access to all the premium content, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to keep the show running. Thank you and goodbye.